Following the deaths of 2,500 Americans and the destruction of 25 U.S. warships at the devastating attacks on Pearl Harbor, the U.S. entered in mass hysteria and panic. For months after December 7th, 1941, the day that went on to live in infamy, Americans prepared themselves daily for another attack from the Japanese. And not unjustifiably. The same day of the invasion, the United States declared war against Japan, throwing their hat into the ring for World War II. Sure enough, those attacks would come. On February 25th, 1942, the nation witnessed as California fought in the Battle of Los Angeles, a battle that, when all was said and done, would cost 5 American lives, lead to the destruction of dozens of buildings and cars as well as other vital infrastructure, and see 1,400 rounds of anti-aircraft artillery fired. Civilians reported watching bombs and paratroopers drop from the sky as planes also crashed into the streets of Hollywood. The U.S. Army put their full force into defending the city of Los Angeles, lighting up the night sky with anti-aircraft explosions as the city entered a total blackout in an attempt to stay hidden from the enemy. Except by the time the dust settled, the Army and civilians alike realized that something was wrong. There were no downed enemy aircrafts. There were no dead enemy personnel on the streets. There were no destroyed enemy vehicles. Every single one of the 1,400 rounds the Army fired had missed their mark. In fact, they couldn't find evidence that there actually had been any aircrafts in the first place. And a century later, we still don't know what exactly happened during the insane and almost unbelievable battle for Los Angeles.
The news of the world, Wednesday, February 25th. Once again, Columbia's correspondents in world capitals and in the fighting zones in the Western Pacific are ready to give you the latest news direct by shortwave radio.
Americans lived in daily terror following the attacks on Pearl Harbor. And now that the U.S. was officially a player in World War II, Japan was no longer the only foreign threat the U.S. was facing. So you can imagine how on edge the everyday citizen was, as the average American's backyard was now a potential battlefield. West Coast states lived in fear the most, though. Japanese war submarines regularly made attacks on American supply ships and oil refineries off the coast of California from December 1941 to February 1942. One of the submarines actually attacked a refinery on February 23rd off the coast of Santa Barbara, 5 minutes into one of then-President Roosevelt's famous fireside chats.
They're making Japan pay an increasingly terrible price for her ambitious attempts to seize control of the whole Asiatic world.
Roosevelt's topic on that night was, quote, on the progress of war. And some have actually theorized that the Japanese timed the ambush in line with that speech as a way to intimidate the United States. As inflation surpasses highs not seen in 40 years, the value of the dollar is decreasing with every passing day. You're paying more at the pump, more at the grocery store, more for cars, for housing. Face it, your paper money is basically worthless. Guys, the timing could not be any better for my new sponsor, Bullion Max. Bullion Max is a direct-to-consumer precious metals retailer who can help you diversify into gold and silver. It's a hedge against inflation, and it's also security for your family in times of crisis. And here's why I love Bullion Max. They're owned by veterans in the precious metals space, and they offer some of the lowest prices that you're gonna find on the internet. I wanna help you get started, so I worked out a special offer with them just for you. Get Bullion Max's Silver Starter Kit at employee pricing. Just go to bullionmax.com/Cabot. This kit includes 5 of the most desirable silver products to invest in, including a silver American Eagle and my personal favorite, a silver Australian Kangaroo. This offer is limited to just 1 per household, so get yours now. Again, go to bullionmax.com/Cabot right now. Tensions remained high into the morning and evening of February 24th. At this point, LA is in lockdown, and the city is covered in anti-aircraft artillery guns. They were preparing for a looming attack. At 7:18 on the night of February 24th, Naval Intelligence issues an alert that mainland California is likely to be attacked within hours. Immediately, panic ensues. Thousands of air raid wardens are put on high alert as the military on the ground prepares for an invasion. At 2:25 a.m. on February 25th, military intelligence detects an unidentified aircraft, which is presumably Japanese, and it's headed towards Los Angeles. Air raid sirens began to scream throughout Los Angeles as the city plunged into a blackout. Every building, every highway, every lamppost shut off. Just after 3 a.m., the Coastal Artillery Brigade on the ground began firing. Over the course of an hour, those troops fired a total of 1,400 anti-aircraft and machine gun rounds at the unidentified aerial object. It was pure chaos according to reports, with one account saying the sky over Los Angeles, quote, erupted like a volcano. The frenzied shooting into the sky stopped at 4:14 a.m., and the blackout was lifted by 7 a.m. But as citizens left their bunkers to see the carnage for themselves, and the Army and Navy began to assess the damage, they made a quick discovery. Not only had the military failed to take down any enemy craft, but it was beginning to appear that there were no aircraft that night at all. That's what the Secretary of the Navy, Frank Knox, said hours after the attack, that the battle had been a false alarm and was the result of everyone's war nerves. So the military spent an hour blowing up Nothing. But wait, that's actually wrong, says the Army. The following day, Secretary of War Henry Stimson said it was possible that up to 15 aircraft had passed over LA that night, and that it was likely the Japanese using commercial airliners to cause paranoia and fear of another invasion. It's fairly strange to have two branches of the military give two wildly different accounts of a terror attack. Either way, the damage had already been done. At least 5 people died as a result of the battle, and cars and buildings had suffered collateral damage from the shrapnel of the artillery. Though this is another point of contention, some eyewitnesses reported seeing planes actually nosedive into the heart of LA. Others reported seeing bombs and paratroopers drop from the sky, though there was never actually any evidence of this happening. After the war ended in 1945, Japan stated that they'd never flown any aircraft over LA, and admitted that it would be a little strange for them to lie about it at that point, given that they'd just raised the white flag. On the night of the battle, guns were firing from the ground, but no US fighter planes were commissioned to engage, or even to observe the Phantom aircraft. And even stranger, 40 years later in 1983, the US Office of Air Force History declared that the mysterious Phantom craft was actually just a weather balloon all along. That, of course, raises the question of why the US Army wasn't able to take down a balloon with 1,400 rounds of explosive anti-aircraft ammunition that blew up the sky. There are theories, of course, surrounding what this ghost craft reportedly was. Some eyewitnesses claim it was dozens of ships. Others claim to see a balloon-shaped object floating over the city. But one of the largest theories is that the mysterious aircraft was actually an extraterrestrial UFO. In fact, it was actually one of the first big UFO conspiracies ever reported in the US. A conspiracy that, if anything, has only ramped up over time.
We got an infestation of God knows what, but they are not of this earth, and we got to hit them with everything we got. We got to hit them hard.
We may never know for sure the nature of the Phantom that attacked LA on February 25th, 1942. But what we do know is that the Battle of Los Angeles is a perfect case study of what happens when mass hysteria grips a city and an army all at once.